Okay, I call to order the Permanent Public Building Committee meeting of October 11th, 2022. Thank you for your indulgence. We had some technical difficulties with Zoom, but I think we're up and running now. And I know one member is on his way. We called him in rather than remotely, so he's on his way, and we'll. I think we can start the meeting. Under Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, issued March 12, 2020, in effect until the termination of the emergency, conducted virtually. Access is provided. On July 17, 2022, the remote public meeting provision was extended to March 31st of 2023. This is a hybrid meeting and can be attended in person or viewed as a virtual meeting on an electronic device. We will proceed under the procedures of a full remote meeting, and as such, all votes will be subject to roll call vote. This meeting is being recorded. The first item for business, I think we'll have to defer because one of our members who was coming is not present. It's not here, and he was present at the meeting, and that's the minute of the last meeting. So we'll hold that in abeyance for the moment. And because of the time, I think we can start with the next item, which is the Public Safety Complex and Fire Station number 2. And to that end, I would ask that Hank and Ken, if you'd like to comment on the comments.
Ken, do you just want to go through the?
I'll go through. I'll take them one at a time. All right. First is the invoices for public safety. These are all just voting items, Richard, so we can just take them one at a time.
Very good. Okay, no other commentary needed. Okay, no, very good. All right. So we have on display on your screen is the Castle Booze invoice for services, and there are actually two. Okay, there are actually two. Was actually the first invoice is for $7,584.50. This is September 2022. For services under PSS number 24. Is there discussion on this particular invoice?
Can you briefly summarize what it's about?
Oh, it's it's the last of the billings of the communication system from Chick Langone.
Okay.
Any further discussion, questions? All right, hearing none, we will proceed to our roll call vote. Mr. Chandler?
Do you need a second on that?
Sorry, yes, is there a second? Thank you, thank you. George is seconded. Okay, Mr. Chandler?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein?
Aye.
Mr. Schlittler?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Okay.
Second invoice is for surveying work that was done up at the sheriff's office for the tower.
Okay. The chair will move that the PBC approve the invoice for $2,200 under PSS number 48.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Silverstein has seconded. Any questions or discussion? We'll proceed to a roll call vote. Mr. Chandler?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein?
Aye.
Mr. Demolition?
Aye.
And Mr. Schlittler?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you. And I believe there's one other invoice, is that correct?
I think it's two more.
Oh, okay.
This is for an oddball chair for one of the conference. I think it's the police conference room.
All right. The chair will move that the invoice of Robert Lord Company for chairs or a chair in the amount of $1,132. Thank you, $1,132.72. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Silverstein, second. Thank you. Any discussion or questions?
Of course, I'm gonna ask a question. Why is this chair, what's special about this chair? that
It's
over
nothing,
$1,000?
it was, didn't come in with the original batch.
But, so every chair costs well over $1,000?
Most of them do, yes.
Okay,
If you go back and look at the ones that the invoices we approved, going back as far as 2 years ago, that's the cost per chair.
scary, isn't
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to the vote. Mr. Chandler?
Aye.
Kent?
it? I,
Mr. Silverstein?
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin?
Aye.
Mr. Schlittler?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you.
Last one is the yeah, I clicked the wrong arrow.
Okay, this is for concealing construction. Through September 2022 with retainage release. And can you read the figures for me?
Sure, it's 1,014,315.23.
Okay, and the retainage release is 994,546.
3.46.
All right, is there, I think the chair will move, will so move. Is there a second?
second,
Discussion, questions?
yes, I have a question. Does this give them all retainage? So, no?
$125,534.94.
Okay, so we're getting there, but it's not right there.
And we're specifically holding retainage for NB Kenny.
Yeah, roughly 25,000 on a $9,000 item,
Why are we holding that retainage?
because they need to get their balancing acts together. It's not a circus.
All right. Any further comments or discussions? And I believe it's been seconded, so we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Mr. Chandler?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
I,
Mr. Silverstein?
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin?
Aye.
Chief Schlittler?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Any other items for the under public safety?
No, so none that I have.
Excellent. Well, thank you all who are participating on the public safety, and we'll move forward to our next item on the agenda. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care,
Aye.
Chief.
Can we look at the Zoom screen to see if anybody else's participant might be? If you look under participant, on board. Just wanna see if there's anybody. How about in the attendees? Is there anybody?
They just, they're there, but you won't see them, you won't see their picture because they're,
Okay,
unless you give them allowed to talk.
yeah, okay, good. I want to make sure. nobody's
All right.
Stuck in the room.
The next item on the agenda is the Ridge Hill demolition. And for that, I will recognize Mr. Half and Mr. Sargent.
Yes, we distributed the tabulation of the general bids to everybody. And I don't know if you can
Yeah, I just go find it here.
bring that up. It's one of the other.
Nope.
In any case, we actually had 7 bids this time compared to the prior bid where we only had 3. And interestingly enough, all of the prior bidders were higher than the new bidders. The lowest bidder is S&R Corporation with a total bid of $402,990. And their alternate number one, which was to omit the garage, actually had an increase of $11,615. I asked if that was a mistake, and they said, no, that was what our bid was. So we have gone through some due diligence with S&R Corporation. They have done similar projects, actually larger projects, and all of the references that we've checked seem to be in line. And they are based out of Lowell. And we are recommending that we proceed with S&R Corporation.
If we can, and if we could break in here for a sec and show, putting in, you can see here the $402,990 along with our other costs. That will leave us with a contingency of a little under 102,000, which is approximately a little better than 20% of the better than 25% of the construction budget. You do not have to ask for more money at town meeting.
That's good. I have a question. Are the three former bidders, who are they?
Best Tech was the prior low bidder.
Did they come in with a higher bid now?
Yes,
Yes.
they were about, I'm gonna say close to $50,000 higher.
Huh.
JR Benedro the same, I think they were around 40,000 higher. And the one was Costello, and they were at 800, over 800,000 the first time around, and they came down to 643, and they were still second highest, even taking $200,000 off of their original bid.
And you got two fairly close at the low end,
Yes.
Green Environmental.
Yeah,
And
and then Bourgeois was only about $4,000 above the environmental.
Yep.
So we had three that were
Three in the.
three within
low end.
10% of each other on the
Yeah.
low end.
That's good. So it kind of, in my opinion, when I see two or three on the bottom like that, and it validates the low bidder, that
Right.
isn't a one-off. you know,
Right.
and he's-
And this is what we hoped would happen, would be that they'd be less busy during the fall, and obviously that might have borne that out.
Well, summertime is a busy time, especially
Exactly.
with other school projects.
Exactly.
So forth. That's good news. It's good news we don't have to go back to town meeting. for more money. What was our original estimate?
We had assumed that we were going to ask for another 225,000.
225, yeah.
What did we originally ask for? Do you remember?
It's in your summary, the original
600,
6.
603. 603, 191.
Yes,
603,
603.
that's it, or exactly 603 and some change.
So with that bid and not having to ask for any more, what is the contingency? How much is it?
It's 101.
101,000. Say we
101,901.
pulled the rabbit out of the hat. That's good.
Yeah.
And, so we don't have to ask for any more, but we're gonna keep the original number that we had.
Yes, well, it's already appropriated. And so I've,
The original number was appropriate.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
appropriated in 603,091 and 10 last October.
Okay.
Other
So
questions?
do we have to do anything at this point?
well, I'd like 2 votes from the committee. One would be to recommend the award to the low bidder,
SNR?
SNR, and not accept for the amount of their bid, and then not accept alternate number 1. And then also to make a second motion that the committee recommends that the warrant article be deleted, removed. And that recommendation would go to the select board.
Yeah, if I could just correct, I don't know, Hank, it's maybe splitting hairs. Richard, you can probably comment, but I don't think we can recommend to warrant. I think what we should do is vote, do we need additional funds? If the answer is no, that's what the select board should hear.
Okay.
They can decide whether they take the warrant off or not.
I could comment on your comment. I think it's a good idea to, since this went through town meeting, that we not only say that we have rebid and have come out within our estimate. How much contingency we have, and there's no further need for additional funds. I think it's important that we inform town meeting, not just, and we encourage select board to inform town meeting.
Well, but I thought, George, is that the warrant is owned by the select board, correct? That article?
We can recommend to them that they explain why we're doing this. I think it's important.
Yes, no, I agree with that. I don't think we can recommend to remove it. I think we're saying we do not need additional funds, and we can parlay that.
That's correct. And I think we simply ought to state to them why we don't need additional funds, and that
Yep.
that should be passed along to town meeting. I think it's important that the meeting know why we did this and what we have for a contingency at this point.
Yep.
Roger, if you'd like to frame the motion?
Well, do you want to do the first motion?
Okay, we'll do the first one first, yeah, okay. All right. All right, the chair will move that the PVC recommend to the select board that the demolition contract for the Ridge Hill demolition project be awarded to S&R Corporation of Lowell, Massachusetts, based upon their base bid amount of $402,390 without acceptance of alternate number one.
I think it's
I'm sorry, 990, sorry, excuse me, 402,990.
I'll
Is
second
there
that.
a second? All right, any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
So what is the time frame again for this project? When do we expect the demolition to?
As soon as possible.
Well, was there a limit
Yes,
Well, yeah, there's
within a
a,
certain amount of
we
time?
have, since we have adequate funding, after this vote, we could proceed to contract and set up a coordination meeting. And they are anxious to start before snow flies. And their deadline is planting season in spring.
spring. That's the only limitation. Everything else can get done in quick short order, and then just the
The
planting.
dollars have they already been approved in town meeting? Were they
Yes.
approved last time? So that,
Or
since
is
they're
it-
approved, we don't have to wait any time.
No.
Yeah.
Anchor's gonna try and get out a letter of intent this week and set up so we can set up an initial meeting. What do we say, the 20th we're gonna shoot for the kickoff meeting?
Yes, so we wanted them to get their bonds and schedule together and bring in the signed contract, copies of the signed contract so that we could send them on their way and also introduce them across the hall and to the health department because you need to get permits from several different groups around town. So we would assist that, and meanwhile, once they deliver us their signed contracts, then we would pass it around town for town signatures.
All right.
So we proceed as fast as possible.
Okay, Captain, was the motion seconded?
Yes,
Okay,
George seconded it.
Thank you. Okay, great. If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed to a roll call vote. Mr. Chandler,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein,
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin.
Aye.
And Mr. DeLong.
Aye. Ed Olson.
Oh,
too.
okay, and Ed, you're on, Mr. Olson?
Aye.
Thank you. As you know, the chair votes aye. It's unanimous vote. Thank you. The second motion, I'm going to ask either Mr. Chandler or Mr. Cantor would like to frame the second motion in line with their previous comments.
Sure, I'll try. So I would put forth the motion to not request additional funds for the Ridge Hill project, given the rebid. And along with that motion, inform the select board why we no longer need additional funds, which is in the order of the new bids came in within the budget, thus eliminating the need for additional funds to complete the project.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Kent seconds the motion. Is there any further discussion or comments from the floor? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote on Mr. Chandler's motion. Mr. Chandler,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein,
Aye.
Mr. Demolition,
Aye.
Mr. DeLong,
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Chair?
Yes,
You voted?
sorry.
You have to vote. You have to vote.
Oh, yes. I will vote. Thank you. Yes, I will vote in favor. Now it's officially unanimous vote. Thank you.
And then we have some invoice.
Yeah, there's one invoice on the back to that screen. For Project Dog. For the, oh no, sorry, that's Emery Grove, that's in the wrong package. Oh, That's because I'm in the wrong agenda.
It's
There,
Dorn.
Dorn Weaver.
Yeah.
Here for, this is for the additional design services for the rebid.
All right, the chair will move that PVC approve the invoice for September 2022 services of for Door and Whittier Architects in the amount of $3,200.
Second?
Okay, and motion's been seconded by Mr. Silverstein. We'll proceed then to the roll call vote. Mr. Chandler,
Aye.
Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein,
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin.
Aye.
Mr. Dulon,
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you.
That's it for Rich Hill.
Okay, very good. That completes our discussion of Ridge Hill. We'll move on then to the Emery Grover discussion. And for that, I'll recognize Mr. Half and Mr. Sargent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeff?
Michael, you
Jeff?
join?
Join?
So we also received the bids for the general contractor on the Grover project. There were.
Somebody
And I
spin
don't
it
know if
around.
you-
I think something went wrong with, I'm assuming it's in this one, in the Emery Grover folder, but you can see that it's corrupted. I have everything else but the bid summary. I'll see if I can dig out my copy by book or by crook.
Okay, so we received 4 bids. There was a much greater spread on those 4 bids. The low bidder was M. O'Connor Contracting. at $15,747,000.
Excuse me, Hank, can everyone see that screen that I just popped up with the bids?
Yes.
Okay,
The second low bidder was Track Builders at $16,800,000. And then the other two were 19.6 and 20.5. So George, to your point, there was a much greater spread on this one. However, the low bidder, M. O'Connor Contracting, was below our 60% estimate. Both of the, so we are recommending that we proceed with M. O'Connor. And we have done due diligence on them. They were pre-qualified. And I think you had said that
they were my second choice. Colantonio, who did not bid of the pre-qualified bidders, was my first choice because of my understanding and my experience with them. I have not worked with M. O'Connor, but I've heard good things about them. And they're well represented in the Boston area.
Yeah, Hank, if I may, Hill has worked with M. O'Connor, did Malden City Hall. They've done a very good job, and we highly recommend them.
And KBA, our architect on public safety, had worked with them down on the Cape, on a job down the Cape, and I recommend it highly also.
I should note that we had a chairs meeting this morning to outline what we just talked about to the chairs of the select board, FinCom, school committee. And one of the things that came out of the meeting was that the consensus was that neither alternate one nor alternate two should go forward with at this time. The thinking on alternate one is that battery installation can be done at a later time. And as far as the repointing of brick for repointing, the thinking was that a lot of this would be taken care of in the course of the execution of the base bid.
or as we are going through, if we experience additional problems, this budget would enable us to issue change orders to do any additional repointing that's deemed necessary during the project. And we do have unit prices from the low bidder.
And as you can see, this has not been updated to the 2.75 million ask. It's $250,000 over. But if you look at the contingency, you take the 250 out of that, you're a little over 3.1 million. And as we said, the contract amount is 15.7 million. So that gives us approximately 20% of the construction amount as a contingency at the 15.747 million with additional funding of 2.75.
So our approach would be to pay for any repointing we felt was important to do out of the contingency,
Yes.
as we see the need to do that.
As conditions warrant, yes.
I see that Mr. DeLong has his hand up. Mr. DeLong.
Yeah, thank you. And it is hashed out on the plans where the repointing will happen in sections. But was there, and this may be more for David, I'm not sure who this question would be for, but was there a projection on the longevity of the building after the renovation? Like sometimes we build 50-year buildings, 60-year buildings. Was there, is the reconstruction, did it come with the projection on the longevity of the building itself, the envelope?
I mean, different components of it have different longevities. I mean, new slate should last 100 years. The pointing, I mean, if you figure, I mean, it's hard to say, I mean, less than 100 years, but I mean, it's probably 50 years. I think for the windows come with a 20-year warranty, I think. I don't know that the windows will last 50 years. But no new windows would last 50 years.
Yeah, the question of alternate two, the full repointing and not doing it, but doing it as potentially pulling it out of the contingency later on as we see fit. I think we lose the overall value of developing the building back into a 30, 40, 50-year building. We're renovating a lot of the other portions of the envelope, like the windows and the roof, but we're not looking at the repointing as something that's going to add longevity to the building when I think we really should be.
All right, just to be clear, the base scope includes repointing probably 80% of the building with some reconstruction and some repointing. And this alternate was just to do that, however much square footage was what we were saying was okay and didn't need to be done. But once you're in there, once you're starting to do 75%, a lot of times you say you might as well do the whole thing. So holding some of that back was just our way all through the project of trying to be prudent in not doing stuff that we thought really didn't have to be done. So that pointing in the alternate is joints that we think are sound now, and that if you did it, it might just be for an aesthetic reason of having it all look the same.
Okay, thanks.
The other concern is that if we have to go take the
In
alternates
order.
in
I
order.
was just gonna say that.
So we would be forced to put alternate number 1 in before we put in alternate number 2. And Ken, I don't know if you can pull up this sheet. You have that? It should be in my folder, but maybe yours isn't.
No, it's, your folder's completely corrupted. But let me see if I can find it. Is it this one?
Yes, that's it. So where we had originally estimated that the 2 alternates would be in the same ballpark, around $200,000, both of them came in much higher. And the battery alternate number 1 came in for the low bidder at 630,000, and for the second low bidder, 625,000. So if we wanted to get to the full brick repointing, we would have to do both, and that would add another $930,000 to the project. And I don't think that we would get FinCom support for that.
I didn't know that you had to do the alternate one before going to an alternate number 2. So that's
You do.
Yeah, that's
yeah, I
that's
didn't
the bid.
I didn't know that.
big rules.
And in hindsight, we would have reversed these 2.
Right on. No, good.
2020 vision.
Thank you.
So I have a question to follow up on that, and that is, is it clear in the mind of M. O'Connor that the extent of repointing is? I mean, is it very,
It's on the drawings, graphically on the drawings and in quantities, square foot quantities on the drawings.
and the drawings and the spec agree?
Yep.
So the contractor isn't going to come back to us and say, well, I assumed that it was, going to be in the alternate 2.
No, I think it's perfectly clear what the
We've got
quantities and
something to
scope
point to.
are
Okay.
on the drawing.
And
And it's
the
not,
drawings and specs are consistent.
yes, and that's, but that's not a GC item, that's a masonry subcontractor item,
Masonry subcontractor.
yeah.
And who's the masonry subcontractor?
Fernandez.
Oh, okay. You know that.
Hank, maybe you could
It's all-
also walk the committee through the discussion we had this morning on the contingency and also with respect to the elevator question.
Yeah, so on this sheet, Ken, maybe you can zoom in on the
Where you want to go?
contingency.
This section right here?
Yeah. So on the contingency, what we've done is we've dropped out the soft cost contingency and the bidding contingency, and we're still carrying a 7% construction contingency plus the owner's contingency of 10%. for a total of 17% on the contingency. Those numbers would lead us toward a requested added funding at special town meeting of 2.725 million, down from the prior suggested amount of 4.455 million. Now, you'll see just above that, the total contingency that we would have for the project is over $3 million. And that $3 million contingency would be compared just against the construction cost, would give you a 20%.
Almost 20%.
Yeah. Almost 20% on that number, but we do feel it important to keep contingency on all the hard costs because the FF&E, the AV, telecom, and other things associated with that have not been bid yet. So we don't have hard prices on those. And we have been seeing, as we saw at public safety, those numbers going up. So
unlike labor costs, which they should have in their bids now, those costs are likely to go up. So we should make sure.
Well, at least with the final sub bids, they're beholden to the wage tables.
Right. What I'm saying is that stuff is not going to change. We know
Well,
what
it
that
could
is.
for the non-filed sub
Well,
bids.
but the fact is that those other numbers are probably going to change.
yes,
Because that's, I mean, those things are escalating as we speak. So we need to make sure that we don't cut back on that.
Right, and that's why we took the approach that we did.
I think that makes sense. And I would
Yeah.
not want to go below that. But it's
No.
comfortable with that.
And then the other variable, just so you're all aware, as you know, we didn't receive any elevator file sub bids. So we initially went back and asked the contractors to include it as part of their base bid. We were getting some pushback and concern and requests for additional delays. So we took the other option, which is allowed, with the IG indicated we could take the other option by establishing a number. We put $350,000 as a leveling amount for all of the GCs. And we now have to go back out and just request from 3 elevator contractors. Request bids, we have to do a public opening on that. We don't have to advertise it, go through that whole procedure.
But we're unlikely to get 3 bids. You'll be lucky if you got 2.
All we need to get is 1. We need to request 3. And all we need to do is get 1.
Because they'll all be DCAM certified contractors, so they're on the list.
Are we seeing more than 2? I don't think we are.
Now, well, we're gonna go back at the elevated, BH&A's elevator contractor, elevator consultant rather, is gonna give us some names, and we're gonna contact M. O'Connor also, and the gentleman that walked with Hank, the additional walk we did a couple of weeks ago seemed to indicate that they felt that they had at least one contractor that they've got a relationship with that would give us a number. So we'll see what comes out of it.
On the second walkthrough, both the president, Michael O'Connor, and his head estimator came through. And the head estimator, he was on his second tour of the building. So I think they understand the scope. And from what we've heard from other projects, they've performed well. And they have many years of public construction experience. Although they haven't done any other projects in this town yet.
I made some phone calls and I got the same feedback.
Good.
You should know that their website was both municipal projects and historic preservation projects. In
Yes.
their portfolio.
Yeah, they did the Chelmsford, there were 2 town halls in Chelmsford. Renovation, adaptive reuse projects they did for us
Mhm.
several years ago, and those did well.
So you do have other recommended recommended
Read from the
motions.
script, Richard.
I do, yes. Okay. All right. There's no further discussion.
I just have one
Please, go
question.
ahead.
What was the sense of the chairs meeting? And as to amount would for a town meeting, how were they?
Really can't speak for them. Actually, I think they're on the also have, we certainly welcome them to comment if they would like. But I think in general, I would just say, so we suggest that I think it's a number that is what it is, and I would imagine that in the end, we'll draw the support necessary.
We will be able to find out tomorrow night because we have to present at the same time tomorrow evening. It seemed as though everybody was relatively pleased, not going for the 4.455 million. And the comment I did hear was that they would not support going for either of the 2 alternates.
Those of us who were on Zoom, Hank, the acoustics were not that great in that room. It was very hard to decipher some of the, some of what was spoken. But that is just
In terms of the 2 alternates, my personal feeling is we're taking the right approach for both of them. And let's go with the low bid without the alternates. I have no problem with that.
I think the other advantage, George, is the base building will be putting in the conduit so that the battery could be added in the future. I think that the Inflation Reduction Act incentives will only make it more advantageous for us in the future. If we needed to add that battery.
Don't we need to take a vote on eliminating those 2, alternate 1 and 2? Is that in the?
The motion that has been put forth for consideration would note that the acceptance would be without acceptance of alternates 1 and number 2.
You want to?
I will read the motion and
Can I, before we do that, Mr.
Yes, yes.
Chair, I just want to just clarify on the chair's meeting this morning. I think it's important. One point you already made, which is that they do not support the alternate 1 and 2. They do appreciate the bids and the low bidder. The contingency was discussed, and by dropping the 3% bidding was accepted. We talked a little bit about the elevator, and that, you know, if the 345 budget were to double, I'm just using that in my terms because I was discussing that, we would have to eat into the 17% to cover that. So as discussed amongst ourselves now, that is still a risk that's looming, but it should be covered within the 17%. And lastly, there's a question, and I think, Hank, it's worth in the committee here, just having the discussion. There's a valid question about the OPM staffing and making sure we can cover that because we've got the 17% contingency. So, you know, are all the numbers pretty comfortable, and do we think managing the project is doable, or do we have some risk in some of those numbers? I just wanted to have the committee hear the perspective on the OPM staffing.
I can see here, we've got 243,000 in there for the OPM. And trying to think what we've spent so far on public safety. And it would certainly be less than that. I can't pull it up off the top of my head, but it's certainly less than this. So I think we're covered with that, Stuart, with the 243. And if we do slip over a little bit, you know, we've got the contingency that can back it up. I mean, we're not talking that it's going to be $1 million, that's for sure. Unless
Right.
I'm getting a raise that I don't know about.
Don't Don't count on it.
Yeah.
All right, let me read the motion and we'll have further discussion if necessary. All right, the chair moves that the PBC recommend that the construction contract for the Emery Grover renovations project be awarded to M. O'Connor Contracting, Inc. of West Roxbury, Massachusetts, based on their base bid of $15,747,000 without acceptance of alternates number 1 and number 2, pending additional funding approval at the October 24th, 2022 special town meeting.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any further discussion or comments on the motion?
Second. I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay. With that, the motion's been made and seconded. I will proceed to the roll call vote. Mr. Chandler,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein,
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin, Mr. Grice.
Aye.
Thank you.
And the chair.
And the chair, thank you. Both aye. All right, the next item is the second motion. The chair moves that the PBC recommend that the school committee include a value of $2,725,000 in the October 24th, 2022 special town meeting warrant number 10, appropriate for Emery Grover renovation supplement to supplement existing funding needed to complete the project.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Rice moves and is seconded by Mr. Silverstein. Any further questions or comments from the committee?
What is that for? again?
Yeah, this is to including value. Right now, there is no value in the warrant, as I understand it. Correct?
Yeah, the way the warrant is drafted, warrant article number 10, it says a certain value or a certain sum,
Certain dollar amount.
a certain dollar amount.
But what is the purpose of that money?
So in the description, in the backup description,
George, up here. We need that 2.75 to
725.
supplement the original funding so that we get this budget.
Okay, so the school committee is being asked to pay for part of the project.
No, the school committee is a user group, so they're the ones who are sponsoring the article.
So the warrant, instead of the $455,000 or
4.45.
now they're asking for the 2 million,
Okay,
for reducing the amount requested in the warrant.
got it. That's it. Okay. I was dumbly thinking they're asking for another 2-point-something million for some reason.
Well, it might.
I don't think they'll get away with it.
The motion has been made and seconded. Any further comments or discussion from the committee? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. And Mr. Chandler,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein,
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin,
Aye.
Mr. Grice,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you both. All right, very much. Okay. Any other matters before us on the Emery Grover?
Yes, we do.
Can I make one comment about?
Not getting off that easy.
I think in this environment that we're in, both of these bids we talked about tonight are phenomenal. In this environment. I really do. This is more than just good news. It's very good news.
Yes.
Especially after those two high bids, the 19 and 20 million.
Yeah.
They were the first two
we
you
opened.
opened?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and Hank and I are just staring at our feet.
I called Hank when you weren't finished.
Yes.
He says,
Yeah.
the first two bids are 19 and 20. And he says, unfortunately, we opened the third one, it was down below our estimate. I said, oh, good, I'll let you go.
There was, we kept our poker faces, but a collective internal sigh was released by those of us on that side of the table. So, all right, that's Emery Grover. Hillside, the work's continuing up there, just a quick update. Sprinkler work has restarted in the old IT space, the old kindergarten wing, and they're putting some in under the stage. They're waiting on some pendant heads and their sprinkler equipment, which I believe is in their shop as we speak. The electrical work continues on the project. Barry can update us in a bit on the upgrade project. Most of the office framing and drywall is complete. The lower level has been painted, and they're hoping to get the painter in on the offices that they built. On the upper level, they're continuing to do the HVAC work. 5 of the 7 condensing units we do not have yet. I just heard today that they're supposed to ship in 2 to 3 weeks. And it'll be another week after that. So we're looking at 3 to 4 weeks before those arrive, but that's right in line with what they told us at the beginning, which was going to be around November 15th. So that is held its schedule for the most part.
Who's the vendor?
Davison and company, they've done work here in town before. We've got IT moved down to the old cafeteria on the 19th. Their work was, they're all moved and everything's done down there. Obviously, their AC is not hooked up, but they don't need AC right now. But they will be needing heat. Barry, I saw they put the burner in. Did they, I didn't see John today, but he might have been there. I wasn't there half the time. Did they get that, the old boiler fired up?
No, we have a little bit more work to do in the tunnels. Unfortunately, my contractor left the bypass valve open on the feed water and flooded out the basement and flooded out the tunnels. So we're waiting for the tunnels to dry out so we can remove some suspected ACM material from in the tunnel. And we'll be able to complete some pipe work in there. But yeah, they're ready to go to commission the boiler as soon as we get the little bit of work we need to do down in the tunnel once it dries out.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead, Barry.
No, we're gonna commission the boiler and get both boilers fired before the temperature gets to where it could be concerning for freezing. We're looking at probably about another week and a half at most to finish everything up and then fire off the boilers.
Okay. Did they, has the engineer doing the electrical upgrade come up with an answer to that disconnect? Did he talk to Eversource?
So we're waiting for Eversource's approval of the updated drawings for the cold sequence installation. And then other than that, it's really the wait time for the 800 amp disconnect that we're still looking for.
Are they doing it inside or outside, the disconnect?
We're gonna do it inside.
So does he get enough line there to move that box over?
Yeah, we're gonna put it on the other wall
Oh, okay.
and tie it back in, so we don't have to move any of the other large pieces of equipment. But it's the waiting is really getting that disconnect. It's gonna take a while to get it. So the switchover might happen, could be in December, depending on when we get the disconnect.
Okay. All right. Any questions on schedule over at Hillside?
So none of this is anticipated to affect the schedule for move-in by,
It shouldn't. The only hiccup would be is if we can't energize the new power supply before they make the move between Christmas and New Year's. That would cause a problem, and Barry will be tap dancing probably weekends or something like that.
No, we'll have capacity to operate the building, given it's even with the renovation and it's the additional equipment with the current existing power source.
That I understand. You're just gonna have to shut, the issue is you're gonna have to shut the power down to make the transfer when the new service comes in.
Yeah, but this is gonna be done after, it's gonna be like a Friday afternoon, Saturday into Sunday kind of work. So we're not gonna interrupt Dan's operation once we get the disconnect and everything ready to go.
it's anticipated that will be done before they move in.
Well, but even if it's after they move in.
Yeah, even if it's after they move in, we're not gonna do it during normal business hours.
And the added electrical load, a lot of it is going to the new
The new ways. Right. I've already walked through that, and the electrician for the project will transfer 3 220 circuits to a temporary panel to allow the production center to operate. Everybody else is working off of existing plugs. So we should be all right with that. All right, ACL on there, I think we talked about this the last time, the AC sizing. They didn't fit in the original one specified did not fit in the windows because the website had the wrong size of the units. We're disconnecting some exterior lights, an outlet in one of the new offices. We had to add a louver to allow AC into a interior office, and some revisions in one of the rooms in the old IT space. There was a fire alarm in the way that we had to move to locate a wall and a few other little odds and ends. So it's not huge money. So that's what's on the ACL. So we come to our voting items. I guess we can do the change order first, Richard, for Cardosi. Two change orders, window modification for an HVAC unit in the old IT space, and drip cap removal for the through wall ACs. They had to cut a strip of metal in order to get the sleeve for the through wall HVAC units in. So that's a total of $2,866.29.
Okay, the chair will so move. Is there any questions or discussions on the change order?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Mr. Chandler?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein?
Aye.
Mr. Demolition?
Aye.
Mr. Grice?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you.
All right, next item is an invoice for Project Dog. This is for hosting for the plans and the specs for the bidding process, $2,067.32.
All right, the chair will so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rice. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we will proceed to the roll call vote. Mr. Chandler?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein?
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin?
Aye.
Mr. Grice?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you.
And the last item is the Cardosi rec. Sorry?
There's two more.
Is it two?
BH plus A,
Oh,
I
they
think they
they
came
came in
today.
after I did. Okay, that's fine. All right. So the next one is the Cardosi rec for the month, $158,813.93.
And all is in order to proceed. Okay.
Yes,
Very
sir.
good. Thank you. All right. The chair will move that the
Just
JJ Cardosi requisition number 3 through September 2022, amount of $158,813.93 be approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Rice, thank you. Is second to the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, proceed to the roll call vote. Mr. Chandler?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein?
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin?
Aye.
Mr. Grice?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you.
All right,
And then we
Kathy,
have one more.
You have the other ones?
There's,
Two more on this other sheet.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
PSS one
They're for the
for
same number.
bidding set.
CSS 7.
Sorry, PSS seven. That one,
And an invoice for that same thing?
Yes.
it's for bidding services.
Yes. The bidding phase of the project.
So we have to vote the PSS for.
Correct. And this was within the architects.
All right, the chair will move that PSS number 7 for bid phase services provided by BHNA in the amount of $23,000 under architects services, PSS services. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Mr. Rice? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Mr. Chandler?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein,
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin,
Aye.
Mr. Grice,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. Okay, and is there anything else?
And the invoice.
And
Oh, the
the
invoice,
invoice,
yeah,
the same
okay,
amount.
great, okay. All right, the chair will move that bid phase services invoice from BH plus A in the amount of $23,000 be approved. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Grice. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Mr. Chandler,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein,
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin,
Aye.
Mr. Grice,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. Anything else on Emery Grover or Hillside? before we move on?
That's it for me, unless anyone has any other questions. I mean, good.
Very good, okay. So final agenda item then for the committee, well, I guess we have to do the minutes. We actually had deferred the minutes because we were a little late getting started, so we can take that up now. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the September 26th, 2022 meeting? I would note that Mr. Chandler, Mr. Kent, Mr. Wilson were present at that meeting.
I'll move to accept the minutes as written.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I think Mr. Chandler won that motion. I remember. It was a close second. All right. Hearing any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, we will again proceed to a roll call vote. Mr. Chandler,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein.
I don't know if I can vote.
Oh, that's right. You
I
can't.
wasn't
Sorry, my
there. I'll
apologies.
abstain.
You cannot vote. That's right. Yes, thank you. Mr. Voloshin.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And finally, we have any other new business before the committee? And Hank or Ken, do you have anything? you would like to-
Just a brief update on some of the studies. We are proceeding with the CAF study, and Erwin, if you'd like to come and are available.
What's the one of
The Council on Aging meeting is Thursday night at 5:30. Make sure it's, maybe 5:15.
Is it typically on Thursday?
It's just this coming Thursday. I think they only meet once a month, but there'll be an update progress report to the Council on Aging, just to tell, and also to get their input on the direction. And I think you all have seen what the scope was, and BH plus A, Rachel Young from BH plus A is leading up that process. So since you're the liaison, I thought.
Yeah,
if-
I'm gonna be out of town, but you can let me know when.
In
the
future
next
ones,
meetings
okay.
are.
And then the intent would be to come back to this committee with an update report at the next meeting on the 26th. is our next meeting. The 25th. Tuesday, the 25th is our next meeting. We are also proceeding with the RTU replacement study. GGD is developing that. And we probably won't have an update back to this committee until the November meeting. They're still just gathering data and beginning to look at the various options that are open. This Thursday, we expect to get the submittals on the theater sound and light study. So far, we've received one. And if it's okay with this committee, the subcommittee of Ann Galati and Leanne Sutton would do preliminary interviews unless you all want to do the interview with the 25th. We have the one that we have received came out of a company in New York, and we're actually expecting perhaps a second one from a theater sound and lighting expert out of another outfit in New York City. Both working with local architects and local team. The study for the DPW Public Works is being pushed back into the new year, into 2023. And I'll have further discussion with the library, Kim. Sorry, Kim, the new director of the library, regarding that study. We're projecting that we'll send out the RFQs in November, but they're still finishing up a separate study, sort of a long-range plan for the library. So they may want to push that one back into the year. And okay. Yeah, unless you have any other things.
Just the Beacon Integrated Solutions
Oh, yes.
invoice. Jack talked a little bit.
And we already voted the Rich Hill, Dorn Whittier.
Yes.
So Beacon Integrated Solutions, at your last meeting, we voted to recommend that the balance of the construction funds be released, those that were not encumbered. Beacon Integrated Solutions still had a remaining encumbrance. This is their final invoice against that encumbrance. I think there'll be a little bit of a balance that we get extended. That invoice is for $590.63. As you may recall, Beth Greenblatt has helped us with negotiations and discussions on the PPA, and also helped for getting the net metering approval. And now that that project has been completed and is turned back to the user group, the DPW will be taking on the power purchase agreement negotiations and finalizing those. Beth has indicated that it will only be more favorable than previously anticipated because of the Inflation Reduction Act and the added tax incentives that are coming out of that. So that's all good news, but it will not be town investment, it will be a private investment. And the town will get net metering benefit.
So this is our last invoice on that project. Well,
Yes.
Close out, George.
what's that?
Close out.
Yeah, I like that.
The chair will move that the invoice from Beacon Integrated Solutions for owner's agent support services for solar PV at the JCB building in the amount of $590.63 be approved. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to roll call vote. And that would be Mr. Chandler,
Aye.
Mr. Kent,
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein,
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else from the committee, that's all. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. You want to make a motion? Mr. Silverstein, thank you. Is there a second? Second motion?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay,
Come on.
all right. And
We usually don't
final
do
vote.
this.
Well, we're supposed to actually.
Well, we have
We're
a
supposed to.
different meeting.
The motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. Mr. Chandler,
Aye.
and
Aye.
Mr. Silverstein,
Aye.
Mr. Voloshin,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you all very much for tonight's meeting. And appreciate your attendance.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
I'm gonna
You can stop. recording now.
Yes.